Which is better, the Google Pixel 6a or the Samsung Galaxy S21 FE? Well, in this video, we're going to find out. Now, these devices were both launched relatively recently, with the Pixel 6a being launched in July of 2022, and then the Galaxy S21 FE being launched earlier in the year in January. Now, both of these phones are considered mid-range devices, however, they don't have the exact same MSRP. Now, keep in mind though that as time goes on, you should certainly expect various deals and discounts coming up for either of these two phones, so I definitely recommend taking a look at the various links in the video description to see the most up-to-date pricing for both of them. In addition to that, I know that the Galaxy S21 FE especially is very popular at carrier stores, and we'll have to see which carriers end up getting the Pixel 6a. But keep in mind that typically if you do go to a carrier store, they can especially give you a really good deal, so certainly keep that in mind as well. Now, while these devices do have quite a few similarities, they also have very many differences, so I'm looking forward to going through all of that throughout this video. Now, the first thing I want to go over are the displays that we're getting here with these devices. Now, with the Pixel 6a, we're getting a 6.1-inch display compared to a slightly larger 6.4-inch display with the S21 FE. Now you can see, when holding these two phones up next to each other, without a doubt, the Samsung is the larger phone of the two, and it also does have smaller bezels as well. Now, another difference is the display technology being used here. With the Pixel 6a, we have an OLED display compared to dynamic AMOLED with the S21 FE, and in addition to that, the Pixel 6a has a 60Hz refresh rate, whereas with the Galaxy S21 FE, we have a 120Hz refresh rate. So a lot faster of a refresh rate here with this device. Now that being said though, I do think things run very smoothly here with the Pixel, and this phone also has a very good looking, bright and vibrant display. Both devices have excellent viewing angles, so definitely if you're looking for a phone that's ideal for content consumption, like watching videos for example, then I think you will like either of these two devices. But keep in mind that in general, the display with the S21 FE is better in pretty much every way. Now, both devices do have 1080p displays, however the PPI is different. With the Pixel, we have a PPI of 429 compared to a PPI of 401 with the Samsung. Now, both of these phones do feature 20:9 aspect ratios for the displays, so that's certainly a nice thing as it's kind of a more narrow but taller form factor, which definitely makes these two phones ideal for scrolling through a social media feed, for example, because technically with the taller ratio here, you'll be able to fit more of your feed into a single frame. And then with the Pixel 6a, we have an 83% screen-to-body ratio versus a decently better 89.6% screen-to-body ratio with the Samsung. Now, both of these phones do feature hole punches for the front cameras, with the Pixel 6a having an 8-megapixel front-facing camera compared to a 32-megapixel front-facing camera with the Samsung. Now, both of these phones are offered in the base configuration of 128 gigabytes of internal storage, and neither of these two devices support microSD card expansion, which is a bit disappointing. Now, with the Pixel 6a, there is no wireless charging, whereas with the Galaxy S21 FE, we do have wireless charging, and it does max out at 15 watts, which is also decently impressive. Now, both of these devices do have in-display fingerprint sensors, which I'll test out in a second here, but with the Pixel, there is no face unlock, whereas with the S21 FE, we do have face unlock. But let's now give the fingerprint sensors a try, starting off here with the Pixel 6a. There we go, it works pretty well. We'll try this one more time. So definitely decently fast and accurate there. Now we'll give the S21 FE a try. So very quick. We'll try that one more time. Also very fast and accurate. I would say that for the Samsung, the fingerprint sensor does seem a little bit faster, but at the same time, it does work very well here with the Pixel 6a. One thing's for sure though, I do like that we also have the option for face unlock with this device, and I certainly wish that Google did offer that with the Pixel as well, just because it is helpful to have multiple methods for accessing the device in addition to the PIN code. Now, when it comes to the cameras on these devices, there are definitely very many similarities and differences as well. So the first difference, I suppose, is that we have an additional camera with the S21 FE, with it having an 8-megapixel telephoto camera. So with that telephoto camera, we do get 3x optical zoom, which certainly does come in handy. Now beyond that though, the other two cameras on both devices are the standard cameras and also the ultra wide angle cameras. So with the Pixel 6a, we have a 12.2 megapixel main camera, and then a 12 megapixel ultra wide angle camera, And then with the Samsung, the main camera is just 12 megapixels, with 12 megapixels as also being the megapixel count for the ultra-wide camera too. Now here's how things look on the camera apps on both devices. This is the main camera right here on both. Then from there, we can switch over to the ultra-wide-angle cameras. And one thing's for sure, the ultra-wide camera on the Galaxy S21 FE is a bit wider. You can see here it does say 0.5x compared to 0.6x, but you can see side by side here, you can certainly fit quite a bit more content into the frame with the Samsung. Now I suppose I do need to switch this aspect ratio over to 4:3, or 3:4 for that matter. So here we go, there's the side-by-side comparison, and again, without a doubt, the ultra-wide camera on the S21 FE can fit a bit more into the frame here. Then from there, on both devices, we can go to portrait mode to get those nice blurred out backgrounds, and then we can flip around to the front-facing cameras to do the same thing. So there's me right there. Now with both of these devices, we do have an option for cropping out a little bit for a group selfie mode, which is pretty nice to have there. And then again, the main difference with these two phones when it comes to pure hardware features related to the cameras is that with the Samsung, we do have that 3x optical zoom, whereas we don't have that here with the Pixel. But overall, I feel like both of these phones do have really nice cameras. But one thing that is nice about the Pixel is that it does have a lot of onboard machine learning thanks to the Google Tensor processor. So it does a lot of things behind the scenes to make your images look even better. But overall, if you're not looking to buy the highest end, top of the line flagship out there, and you want to go for either of these two phones instead, I definitely don't think that you'll be disappointed with the camera quality from either of the two. Now with both of these phones, they do have 6 gigabytes of RAM, however the processors are different. So with the Pixel 6a, we do have the Google Tensor processor, which is their in-house processor, and then with the Galaxy S21 FE, we have the Qualcomm Snapdragon 888, and I believe if you buy this phone in certain regions, it does come with a Samsung Exynos processor instead. Now unfortunately, at the time of recording this video, Geekbench 5, which is a benchmarking app, is not available for the Pixel 6a, so I can't compare the score of the S21 FE directly to the 6a. However, from what I've noticed, it does seem like both phones do pack in quite a bit of power here, so if you do want to use the devices for mobile gaming, for example, I think you'll have no issues at all. And even doing other things like video editing should go smoothly too. So just know that with both of these phones, you should expect to get pretty good performance, maybe not quite at the same level as some of the top of the line phones that are out right now, like the S22 Ultra, or even the Pixel 6 Pro. But overall, for what these phones are, I think you will be happy with them, given the processor and RAM that we're getting. Now, as far as video recording goes, both phones can take 4K video at 60 FPS with the rear cameras. However, with the Pixel 6a, front-facing video recording is limited at just 1080p, whereas with the S21 FE, front-facing video is also offered in 4K. So it is a bit unfortunate that you can't take 4K front-facing video with the Pixel 6a. And then when it comes to battery capacity, with the Pixel 6a, we have a 4,410 mAh internal battery that does support up to 18 watt fast charging. And then with the S21 FE, we have a 4,500 mAh internal battery that does support up to 25 watt fast charging. So that is nice that we do have 25 watt fast charging with this phone. I certainly wish we also had that with the Pixel 6a. But at least it does support 18 watts. Now, as far as the software goes, there are some pretty big differences here in the sense that we're getting the Pixel experience when using the Pixel 6a. So very close to stock Android. Of course, the software is created in-house by Google, and Google is the company behind Android, so that's worth considering. But at the same time, Samsung does have a lot of experience with Android as well. But with this device, it does feature Android 12, but with Samsung's One UI. So if you are very familiar with using Samsung devices, then I do think that you'll feel right at home here with the S21 FE. But at the same time, there isn't much of a learning curve with the Pixel 6a. Now, both of these phones do support NFC, so if you do like to make mobile contactless payments using tap and pay, then you can certainly do that here with either of these two devices. But now that we've talked quite a bit about the various specifications and features that we're getting, let's talk a bit more about the hardware. Now, both of these phones do have plastic on the back panels, and it does look a bit more like glass here with the Pixel 6a, but it is made out of plastic. And then the FE certainly does look like plastic on the back. So even though the S21 FE does look a bit more plasticky on the back, I do appreciate that it doesn't really pick up too many fingerprints. And overall, I think both phones are very stylish handsets. However, I do think the Pixel 6a does look a bit nicer and higher end. Another thing I like about the Pixel 6a is that it has a more boxier look to it. I feel like nowadays, a lot of phones have this rounded look, similar to what we're getting here with the S21 FE. So I do appreciate that Google did take a little bit of a different direction when it comes to the design of the phone. Now, the phone does have bigger bezels, but at the same time, this is supposed to be a little bit lower end compared to the S21 FE, at least when it comes to the MSRP. So I don't have any issues with it overall. I think it does have a really nice design. Now on the left side of both phones, on the Pixel 6a, we have the slot for the SIM card. Then on the right side, we have the power button and then volume up and volume down on the 6a. And then with the S21 FE, things are flipped around with the volume up and down up top here. And then further down here with the power button. And then up top here in both devices, we have noise canceling microphones. And then on the bottom of these two phones, on the Pixel 6a, we have the microphone, USB-C port for charging and data transfer, and the speaker. And then on the S21 FE, we have the SIM card slot, microphone, USB-C port for charging and data transfer, and we have the speaker. And then on the back of both devices, we have just the camera modules and the flash. Now, unfortunately, neither of these two phones have a 3.5mm headphone jack. However, that's pretty much the standard now for mid-range devices and higher-end phones. So if you do want to use traditional wired headphones, then you might want to consider getting some sort of adapter. So this concludes my comparison of the Google Pixel 6a versus the Samsung Galaxy S21 FE. Now, something to really keep in mind here, again, I mentioned this earlier in the video, but the S21 FE, since being launched earlier this year, has really gotten some solid discounts and deals. So even though this phone might appear a bit more expensive than the Pixel 6a, I would definitely cross-shop the two to see which one you can get the better deal on. Because in general, with the S21 FE, you are getting a lot more features here. Now that's not saying that the Pixel 6a is a bad phone by any means, but again, unless they're going to be giving this phone a lot of great discounts, they are going to be competing against Samsung, who is very aggressive with various deals that they tend to offer. So that's certainly something worth keeping in mind. But again, at the end of the day, I think these are both two really good handsets. And if you end up with one or the other, I think you're going to be very satisfied. But I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks again for watching. This is Kevin here, and I will see you in the next one.